tweens are definitely still a somewhat ambiguous group of library patrons, and I think we as a profession are still trying to figure out who exactly they are, where they fit in, how to categorize them, and how best to serve them. Tweens are loosely defined as young people between the ages of 11 and 14, but I've seen that age range go as low as 9 or 10 in some literature. So do you as a library system categorize your tweens with your children's summer program or with your teens? Do you have a separate section or department in your library where you house your books and materials for tweens? Do you have a special label that you use to designate these books? Or do you simply create book lists with appropriate titles? Or do you take the ostrich approach, stick your head in the sand, and do nothing and hope that the subject of tweens never comes up? So these are all the questions that I asked myself as I was working on preparing this presentation. And the truth is there's just a lot of overlap between both children and teens. And unfortunately, there is no tween summer reading program manual yet. Hopefully that's something we can look forward to in the future. But in the meantime, I tried to come up with some out-of-the-box ideas that you wouldn't find in either one of the manuals. That being said, there are some wonderful programming, craft, outreach, marketing ideas in both manuals that would definitely appeal to tweens, so I encourage you to draw heavily from those when you're planning your summers. And these are some of my own personal travel photos from different countries that I've visited over the years that I applied a really cool Polaroid effect to, so if you want to know how to do that so that you can teach your tweens, ask me afterwards. I chose the title Tween Tested, Budget Approved very intentionally, because just like with tweens, it's very important to, whenever possible, go straight to the horse's mouth and ask your tweens what they think. If you have really outgoing, outspoken tweens who have lots of creative ideas, you can have more of an open, free-for-all type of forum where they're actually generating ideas for you. If your tweens are like my tweens and they give you that deer in the headlights kind of look, then you might want to give them some multiple choice options of programs that you've already vetted and just see what they think about them. When I first heard that the summer reading program theme this year was travel and world cultures, I immediately went to the head of our reference department because he's the liaison with our Sister Cities exchange program. And our Escondido sister city is Maebaru, Japan. And he was lucky enough to take several groups of Escondido tweens to Japan, and this is one photo of one of those groups on the presentation. Unfortunately, because of budget cuts, the program isn't currently active, but that doesn't mean that you can't capitalize on that established infrastructure and those contacts that already exist to fashion a whole new program out of it. Whereas in the past, these tweens might have been pen pals and exchanged snail mail letters, now they can be virtual pen pals and Facebook friends. You can start an online book club and invite tweens from your sister city to participate online. A great tie-in with the Sister City program, if your sister city happens to be in Japan as well, would be the Japanese Culture Club program. I envision this as a 2-hour carnival of Japanese culture and fun where tweens get to move around and participate in a bunch of different activities. But first and foremost, in organizing this, I highly recommend that you tap into your local anime clubs, whether they're at your library or they're at your local middle and high schools. As I was working on this presentation, one of my teen volunteers, who happens to be the president of his anime club, news to me, happened to overhear me talking to one of my colleagues, and he jumped right in and started spouting off ideas left and right. So they are a wonderful resource to tap into. They can help you plan, organize, run this program, market this program to their fellow tweens and teens, and also participate on their own level. If you have the budget, you can hire a professional manga artist to come and teach your tweens how to draw some characters. Or if you don't have the budget for that, there might even be a teen member of your anime club who has enough talent and the ability to convey that talent to a group of people that you could have them come and do it for free. Again, screen wisely, because just because they're talented doesn't necessarily mean they can convey that to a group of their peers. Another option would be to show a little anime movie series. If you need ideas, just simply go to your tweens. They will absolutely give you a laundry list of things that you should show. And they're usually pretty short, so you could fit a couple of those in. Origami is another very popular element of Japanese culture that tweens are very familiar with. There are countless books and websites out there that will give you patterns and ideas for this. This is just one website that I found that actually offers a free downloadable ebook with 10 different folding patterns. They also offer a downloadable PDF of full-color origami papers. I don't know about you guys, but my administration would keel over and die at the thought of me printing out full-color origami paper on our printers. But nonetheless, it's a wonderful idea and it's out there. So you could just provide them with a link and they could do it at home. Your anime members are also a really great resource for you here because you can set them with the task of creating the little samples of all the origami that you will be creating. For the chopstick races, all you need to do between now and the beginning of summer is ask your friends, family members, and coworkers to request an extra set of chopsticks when they go out for takeout. By the time summer rolls around, you'll have plenty of pairs of chopsticks for your races. Next, you'll need some items for them to pick up and transport, and this can literally be anything that you have in large quantity in your library. If you want to challenge your tweens, you can use things like rubber bands and paper clips. If you want to be a little bit nicer, you can use bigger, puffier things like those little puffy letters that you can buy at Michael's. You can use Legos that you borrow from your nephew. It can really be anything that you have in enough quantity so that they're all moving the same thing to keep it fair. You can also vary the type of race that you do depending on the size of the room that you're working with. If you have a large space, you can have them moving from one end of the room to the other. If you don't have a lot of space, you can set them up similar to this at a table where they're actually transporting the items from one location to another, one container to another in a specified amount of time. The only thing that you have to spend any money on is prizes if you choose to give them out. And that can range from a small bag of Japanese candy, we've seen several examples during the raffle, all the way up to a manga book or an anime DVD, depending on how many you want to buy and how much money you have to spend. To cap off the program, you can teach your tweens how to make candy sushi. And this is a link to an excellent recipe that involves Twinkies, powdered sugar donuts, fruit roll-ups, and Swedish fish. That makes my teeth curl just to think about eating that, but my tween taste testers devoured these, and they absolutely loved the assembly process. So this was a 5 out of 5 on their scale. Your costs will depend on how many pieces of sushi you're planning to allow your tweens to have. Based on my estimates, I allowed them to each have 2 rolls, which are the ones with Twinkies, and 2 with the fish on top. And I was able to get enough supplies for 20 teens with just $10 worth of supplies. I was going to do a slide on an international food tasting program, but Amanda's going to do a great job of that in her teen presentation, and the same thing applies to tweens. Whenever possible, when your budget and your library policies allow, I highly encourage you to incorporate international food into your programs. It not only brings them in, but it also expands their horizons, and it introduces them to a whole world of different cultures and cuisines. Next on our list of tween-tested, budget-approved program ideas is So You Think You Can Folk Dance. And Penny and I were on the same page with this. There are librarians who work with tweens and teens have had lots of success in doing talent shows. And a great way to put a cultural twist on it is to have them draw from their own cultural background or participate in a dance program from a culture that they're interested in. If you don't think that you can get enough participation to actually do a contest, you can do an exhibition like Penny was saying. Tap into your local dance schools. Like she said, they'll often do it for free just to give their kids practice and exposure. Another resource to tap into are your local colleges and universities. They often have international clubs or specific culture clubs that will come and do performances as a philanthropy project. I've also included a link to bigboxprogram.org. This is the result of some brainstorming done by state library staff in response to some feedback that they received from librarians across California regarding the need for better shared programming. This is a free database site, let me repeat that, a free database site that includes presenter information and a system for librarians to rate them anonymously. So we've all had those performers that we would love to say, do not hire, but we don't want to attach our names to that. This is a way that you can do that anonymously and help out your fellow librarians. It allows you to search by proximity, ratings, genre, and cost. It's still new and relatively small, but the more librarians that contribute to it, the better it will be. And it's a great way to share resources in one centralized location. The Sarah Library Cooperative that we belong to, which includes libraries in San Diego, Riverside, and Imperial counties, have opted to use this in lieu of maintaining our own separate database, just because it incredibly cuts down on the amount of staff time involved. So I highly encourage you to visit this site, search around, register, and contribute to it, because it will only be as good as we make it. Henna is a pretty ubiquitous form of art nowadays, but for those of you who may be unfamiliar, it's a plant that's dried and ground into a powder, mixed with essential oils, and then applied directly to the skin in intricate patterns. It's also one of the most popular programs I have ever done at the library. We hired a woman to come for our teen summer reading program kickoff last summer, and she was only one element of a larger carnival-style program, but she was by far the most popular and could have been her own standalone program. She charged us $100 for 2 hours of time, and we had teens and tweens that were pulling out their iPhones and their iTouches and pulling up images of Hello Kitty and, chargers, things that they wanted put on their bodies, and she was able to do it all no problem. So I highly recommend hiring a professional. If that's not in your budget, there are definitely some amazing do-it-yourself kit options. I would just recommend practice, practice, practice before the big day, because this stuff does last. And on that note, I would really recommend that you have your tweens get signed parent permission slips, because Parents might not be aware that this could last up to 3 weeks. Tweens love to recycle, as do I, and I think that this craft has a lot of appeal for both boys and girls, which is important to me because I want to bring more boys into my craft programs. I've made some little samples of these that you guys can come and look at later if you like. And you can really use any type of recycled material that you have. Old scrapbook paper, pages from tween magazines, travel magazines that you might be discarding, chip bags like this one is made out of, coffee bags, anything. I think it would be really cool to use international food bags, like some of the ones that you guys won in the raffle, because they have cool designs, and as an added bonus, you can eat the candy while you're working on the craft. And as we all know, if you feed them, they will come. If you're going to use something, though, that once contained food, I recommend wiping it down with some dish soap just to get rid of that food residue before you start the project. And in order for it to be big enough to actually hold paper money, it has to start out at least 8.5 by 11 inches. So keep that in mind. No little individual snack-size bags. Instructions for a much more intricate purse design are provided in the manual, but I did some research and found this wallet design because I really think, number one, it appeals more to boys, and number two, that one just looked way too complicated, and I just didn't have time to figure that out. So I also included a link up here to a really easy to follow video that you can actually show during your craft program, because I think it's a lot easier to watch somebody do it as opposed to just listening to how to do it. I would budget about $30 for this program to purchase snacks for 20 tweens. If you ask your tweens to bring their own craft materials, that incorporates the recycling aspect of it, and it's free. And the other things that you need are scissors, tape, markers, and rulers, which we all have in our libraries anyway. There are various ways that I've tried to outreach to tweens, both generally throughout the year and specifically for the summer reading program. The first and by far most effective has been partnering with our bookmobile. Our bookmobile is run through our literacy services department, and we were able to establish a wonderful cooperative partnership whereby the whole program was brought to members of the community who lived in apartment complexes right around our branch library. And I created a summer reading program in a box for our bookmobile driver so that participants could come to the bookmobile, register for the program, get their library card, check out books, do activity sheets, and get their prizes all in a one-stop shopping type of environment. And this really brings the program out into the community, which was great. One of the most interesting things that we found from this partnership is that people who literally live within blocks of the library had no idea that we were there. So not only are we increasing our stats because we're getting more tweens and their families and their siblings involved, but we're educating them that we really exist and that they're now actual library patrons who walk over to our library and participate in in-house programs as well. Taking that idea of summer reading program in a box, I also make this available to organizations within the community that also work with tweens. Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, religious institutions, and summer school classes. They are your best, most captive audience. So reach out to your principals now, let them know that you have this program available and that it fits perfectly into their curriculum. There's no extra work, it's not on top of what they're doing, it's parallel to what they're doing. I provide all of the necessary materials, incentives, registration information so that these group leaders can actually conduct a summer reading program on their site, and tweens that otherwise would never have been able to step foot in the library are able to participate over the summer. Finally, I use already established programs to get tweens involved in my library, and then I personally badger them every time I see them and remind them months leading up to the summer reading program that they have to participate or I will be personally let down. Having that personal relationship with tweens is so important, and that's how I get these guys to come back year after year and participate every year and participate on a monthly basis in the programs that I run. The first is the Crafty Cats, which stands for Community Action Teen Service. This is a creative arts-based community service program. We do projects like knit beanies for newborn and preemie babies. We make blankets for shelter animals. We make hats for chemotherapy patients, that kind of a thing. The other is the In-Between Book Club, which meets monthly. We read a variety of different genres of books. I provide a snack based on the book, and we chat. The most important aspect of that program for me is that I make sure that every tween who's involved gets a copy of the book. And that not only grows their own personal library at home, but it expands your community of readers, a summer reading outcome that Natalie was talking about, because they take it home, they share it with their parents, their siblings, their extended family, they pass it off to their friends who circulate it to their friends, and there you go, huge bang for your buck, buying one book for one kid. The Guys Read program started because we had two Literacy AmeriCorps workers who were very interested in getting guys interested in reading. So they partnered with two middle schools in Escondido, and they started a lunchtime book club. It was modeled after John Sheska's Guys Read program, and they had great success in getting 6th through 8th grade boys involved and interested, and they became voracious readers. And what was great for me about that is that I was invited to speak to those boys whenever I had a program coming up that I wanted to advertise. And they, in turn, came to my programs at the library, and they were my test subjects for many of the things that I'm telling you about today in this presentation. Finally, we have marketing. Now, what tween doesn't want to be a YouTube star? Let's just be honest. Getting tweens involved in your marketing is really the most effective and the most authentic way to get the word out about your programs. In previous years, we have started doing promotional DVDs that star tweens and teens, and we pass those out to local schools and other community organizations, and we ask them to show them during assemblies, on their TV morning announcements, put them on their websites. We also post them on the library's website, our Facebook and YouTube pages as well. You can see last year's video on CLA's website at this link if you're interested. It's very easy and inexpensive to create these videos. When we first started, we were using the City of Escondido's videography department, which was wonderful because it was free for us, but very time-consuming and labor-intensive because they set up all these grandiose shots, and it was wonderful, but it took a lot of my time. This year, I'm going to get my tweens together, I'm going to give them a flip video camera, and I'm going to see what happens. I think that'll be great. Then we spend about $30 buying the DVDs and mailing them out to the schools. I'm also trying to capitalize more on texting. I find that the best way to get tweens and teens to my programs is to text them an hour before the program starts as a reminder. The issue with this age group is that a lot of those tweens don't have their own cell phones, but since parents tend to be the chauffeurs anyway, perhaps texting the parents would be just as effective. I'm really excited to participate in YALSA's webinar, which is next Thursday the 18th, entitled Going Mobile, Teens, Libraries, and Cell Phones, and I'm hoping that we'll get a lot of really good ideas and suggestions for ways to incorporate mobile technology into marketing and outreaching to tweens. So that's it for me. I am so thrilled to be here. Thank you again for your time, and I appreciate any feedback that you have, or if you want to share ideas for working with tweens, feel free to contact me. Thanks.